Joe Biden gave his son, Hunter Biden, a full and unconditional pardon for any crimes he may have committed between January 1st, 2014 and December 1st, 2024. This covers Hunter's felony convictions for gun charges, tax offenses, and even overlaps with his time with the Ukrainian energy company Burisma. But we were told by White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre repeatedly that this wouldn't happen. Take a look.
From a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No.
Well,
I just said no. I just answered.
The president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
His son, Hunter, is also up for being sentenced next month. Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
It didn't stand for forever, though. Here to break it down for us is Matthew Peterson, editor-in-chief of Blaze News, and Eric Eggers, vice president of Government Accountability Institute. So, Eric, what went through your mind when you saw this news come out last night like the rest of us?
Yeah, let's be clear. This isn't a pardon. This is a decade's worth of salvation and forgiveness from, this is maybe the greatest act in the history of not just presidents, but like fathers. I feel bad that I'm not going to be able to do something similar for my own son one day. Hopefully he won't need it. This is also an affront to the integrity of our democracy. And it's just the latest admission that Joe Biden and the Biden administration have been lying to the American people for the last 4 years. It started in the fall of 2020 when the FBI worked in conjunction with big tech to help suppress the accountability of the Hunter Biden business dealings in the first place, which allowed Joe Biden to even become president so he could later pardon Hunter Biden. But this is, they've been lying about it at every step of the way. And I think it just makes you now, for the first time, fully see just how corrupt the Biden business scheme has been.
Eric, let's talk a little bit about that because, for a lot of people, the images you see of Hunter, right, is the crack, it's prostitution, it's sort of the down and dirty stuff. But what gets lost is, the bigger picture. So when you look back and think about this, just go through, what are the big crimes that are actually being covered up here?
Sure. Well, the acronym is FARA, and it stands for Foreign Agent Registration Act. So let's talk about the timeline that Joe Biden begins this period of grace for his son. January 2014. The month before that, Hunter Biden rode on Air Force Two with his then vice president father, Joe Biden. Together, they traveled to China, where after this visit, when Joe Biden visits with the then vice president of China, 10 days later, Hunter Biden, who, by the way, had no international business experience. This is a guy who got put on the board of Amtrak. And when they said at the congressional hearing, hey, we're going to put him on the board of Amtrak, it's because he has experience riding trains. That's who Hunter Biden was. And so now all of a sudden, he's traveling with his vice president father to China. He gets this $1.5 billion private equity deal, a joint partnership with essentially the communist government of China. It had never been done before. Even John Kerry's stepson, Chris Hines, who had been business partners with Hunter Biden before, said, this is too much. This is shady. I'm not going to do this. Hunter Biden and his buddy Devin Archer and other business associates were all in. And so this began this international ravaging of the dark corners of shady businesses that wanted to curry favor with American political elites. It's called elite capture. Hunter Biden was all too willing to take the meeting and the money. And so whether it's the business dealings in Ukraine, it's the joint venture in China, it's the CEFC, which, by the way, is this Chinese energy company, which also involved Jim Biden. But more importantly, these are business deals that would have involved Joe Biden. So by creating this decade's worth of grace for Hunter, you now have, this is the closest Joe Biden has done to creating grace and space for himself, because these are business dealings in which Joe Biden wouldn't have just been adjacent, but we have emails and business records that show, Joe Biden was considered an employee of some of Hunter Biden's businesses when he wasn't the vice president. So I think by pardoning Hunter, Joe Biden essentially has pardoned himself.
Yeah, we love 10% for the big guy. We can't forget that. And of course, Hunter Biden as the artist. I want everybody to know out there, I wonder what his artwork is going to be selling for now that he's not going to be right there at the seat of power with his father. But you did mention Jim Biden. How far do you think that Joe will go in pardoning his family? Is this something that we should also be on the lookout for as we approach January 20th?
Yeah, there's a number of Biden relatives that have businesses that are connected to Joe Biden being in power. I mean, remember, Joe Biden holding political office is the Biden business model. So there's a son-in-law that started a healthcare startup while Joe Biden was vice president. There's other, cousins and relatives like that. But to be honest, if we're talking about who Joe Biden should be pardoning, in my opinion, he should be pardoning Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski in the New York Times for lying to the American people for the last 4 years. I mean, this is the latest lie. Hey, I'm not going to pardon my son Hunter. These are the same people that told us that, oh, Joe Biden is cognitively fit as a fiddle. He's doing Sudoku puzzles and learning to speak Latin while at the age of, in his late 70s while he's running the country. So, I mean, we've been lied to at every step of the way. And there's a lot of people that were complicit in the cover-up, not just of Joe Biden's business dealings, but just the fact that he has been up to this for some time, and there should be some accountability.
Yeah, Eric, let's talk about accountability because, does this effectively squash investigations in the future? Does it open up new possibilities? Some people are saying, well, now he can't plead the fifth. I have no idea whether or not that's actually true. But, I mean, what do you think is the path forward? And is there one for Republicans and others to take on?
Well, Matt, it sounds like one of the things we have in common is that neither one of us are lawyers. But what I have been told is that it's possible that while he does have a federal pardon, he may still face state charges for some of these tax evasion claims, because when you file your federal taxes, you have state taxes as well. As you might recall, Steve Bannon potentially still faces prison time at the state level despite receiving a federal pardon. And yes, the fact that he can no longer incriminate himself because he's received a pardon for decades worth of essentially acting as a foreign agent without having to register. By the way, that's something he admitted in some of these emails. He said, guys, I think this might be a FARA problem. We should probably register. They never did. That's one of the reasons why I think the House Oversight Committee was putting together these financial records and matching them up with their travel records. So, I mean, that's something that he can no longer face federal charges for, but that should mean he cannot plead the fifth because he cannot incriminate himself. He's already had that charge taken off the table. So, but, I mean, what assurance do we have that he will then tell the truth if he does testify? They've lied at every step of the way. And so if there's forced to be testimony between now and January 20th, maybe Joe Biden will give him a pardon for perjury as well.
Well, the days of our lives, we will still have a month and a half of the Biden soap opera, I'm sure, to look forward to. Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks a lot, guys.
Matthew, when we look at this, of course, everybody was saying, "Oh, my pretend to be shocked face when I saw the news that Hunter got the pardon."
Yeah, I mean, we all knew this was going to happen. It's not a surprise. If it is a surprise, you need to kind of check yourself. But at the same time, actually watching it happen is interesting because there's fallout politically, right? I mean, Democrats actually have to deal with the obvious. It's not even an elephant in the room. It's just obvious reality of how corrupt this family was. And I would love to see actual justice occur in some way because you can't have a family getting money from foreign governments leading the United States of America. But, this is America 2024. We'll see what happens. But I damn sure hope that people in the Trump administration take this on and don't just let it go.
When this happened, a lot of the response on X was, well, if they're going to do that, then Donald Trump should push for the pardons for J6ers immediately, right? That was okay, if you're going to do this, we can do that moment.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think they're comparable. Like,
they're
right?
not,
The one is, terrible injustice, and the other is the government acting in a way that's not compatible with the Constitution. So, yeah, I mean, if it helps, great. Like, if it helps people make the case, yeah, let's do it.